YouTube, what's happening? I'm back again with another video. I apologise again, I've still got the crappy camera. I also noticed from watching the last video back that my teeth were looking yellow. They're not yellow, don't get me. Yeah, that's not the case. That was the camera and the lighting. I've changed my lighting. My lighting was on like a yellow one, my back lighting was a bit different. I've changed it to blue. So yeah, we're going to be looking at, in the last video I was telling you about my prison. You got to see a bit of wing, etc, etc. If you haven't seen it, go look at that. And yeah, this was only put up 1 month ago, so it's still fairly new. It's ITV's report of the new harsh reality of working in big, most notorious prisons. I'm guessing this is going to be like category A prisons, so it's going to be like, like Franklin, etc. Mine was a category B, so it was 1 tier down from these. Don't get me wrong though, there was some hard criminals in there, but yeah, let's have a look.
Tonight, ITV News has a special report giving unprecedented insight behind the bars of one of Britain's toughest top security jails. HM Prison Belmarsh is a Category A men's prison in south-east London, housing some of the country's most dangerous criminals. Now, for months, we've been following new prison officers on a fast-track scheme aiming to solve the problem. We've been following new prison officers on a fast-track scheme aiming to a men's prison in south-east London, housing some of the country's most dangerous of one of Britain's toughest top security jails. HM Prison Belmarsh is a Category A men's, England and Wales. One of the major problems is staff retention. Nearly half of all officers who left the service last year had been on staff for less than 3 years. More than a quarter left after less than 1 year. Staff are also facing a growing number of assaults, more than 7,000 in the 12 months to June, and that's up 4% on the previous 12 months. Our social affairs.
So as I was saying in my videos, it does look like things have improved. You know, there's too many prisoners. Even back in the day when I was there, my prison was still over capacity. We used to be able to hold something like 900 prisoners, and that was full capacity. I don't know how they did it. Maybe we had prisoners down in, like, Segra was full. I don't know how they did it, but we was over capacity. We used to have like 923 sometimes. I don't understand how we got them all in and all that stuff. It is crazy.
Affairs correspondent Sarah Corker has this exclusive report on a scheme to fast-track new staff at Belmarsh.
Being a prison officer is a dangerous job. The world behind the barbed wire is a volatile, secretive place.
We'd always do moves via radio.
We've been given exclusive access to new recruits working in the country's most notorious prisons.
Is there going to be like more staff? Is this restraint going to become like more aggressive and more violent? Will I have to draw my baton? There's literally like so many questions going through your head.
Officer Brown is on an early shift at Belmarsh, a maximum security male prison. From shoplifters to terrorists, there are all kinds of high-risk criminals here. She's had a radical career change from anthropology graduate to prison guard.
So what she's doing there with him is obviously taking him back. So sometimes when prisoners are at work and the other prisoners are locked down, you know, because they don't work or anything, so they just stay locked in the cells. They don't go out to mingle with anyone. It's not association. Then you'd be trying to do your paperwork and stuff, but then you'd be like, oh, so-and-so's done down at Amenities. So then you'd have to go and pick him up and walk him back, and then go and pick someone else up and walk him back, doing moves on the radio and stuff. So the moves take a while to move prisoners around and stuff. So your day, like I said before, every day was a busy day.
And how long have you been at Belmarsh for now?
Coming up to 3 months now.
And she's already responded to 2 violent incidents.
I think both of them were, again, prisoner frustration and then lashing out on staff, if that makes sense. So it led to like a prisoner punching a staff member.
Was that scary? Running to that?
You know, this is another thing that I briefly mentioned in the last one. So the higher ups in there, the bosses and stuff, they wouldn't really associate with the prisoners. They wouldn't really want to even associate with you. You'd have to go through someone else to get to you'd have to go through a house block manager to get to someone else. So yeah, it's a bit crazy. So that frustration comes from that as well, because you'd have them guys like, his stuff's not here. So you'd be like, so then he'd be saying, you're just in the middle of the conversation, he'd be saying, well, when's it coming? And you're like, when's it coming? We don't know. You'd be, so because they're not face to face with the prisoner, you're having to give messages that they wouldn't necessarily have said to the prisoner if they was face to face with them. So you end up at the brunt of it. You end up the one getting beaten for shit when they're not frustrated at you. You're just doing your job. You can't pull shit out your ass for them. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. That's where the frustration comes from, because you're trying your best. But that's what I'm saying. If you're trying your best to do the job, the prisoners respect that because they know how it is. Like,
it is, because you're like, when you're running into it, you don't know what you're running into, and that unknown is really scary. And how has it made me feel? It's a little bit nerve-wracking, just in terms of...
Again, this kind of relates to a previous story in a couple of videos ago that I did, when I was telling about a guy who said threatened to smash a computer off my head. That was because, like I said, he says, oh, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to so-and-so. That's because she's fucked him over, and I'm trying to sort it out for him. We're getting nowhere. He's getting frustrated. And then he's threatened her, and I'm like, look, you can't threaten her. That's how it's ended up then flipping on me. Do you know what I mean? So then his aim is now targeted on me. That's how things
this
flare
is actually
up.
happening now. Like, this isn't training anymore. This is real life.
This is Alpha 3.
We first met the officers back in July during their intensive training. They could have worked in law or medicine, but instead are part of the 2-year Unlocked scheme, which recruits high-flying graduates to work in prisons.
What was the reaction from family and friends?
I'll be honest, a lot of my friends that laughed and said, you'll never be able to do it.
Just shock, like more or less shock.
So it was a mixture. Most of it was don't do it, you'll get killed.
After just 6 weeks of training, they're sent onto the front line.
Yes, you're taking off your shoes as well. And your belt.
Serious violence is on the increase. On average, 20 prison officers are assaulted every day. This block is for lifers and those serving.
It's a mental game as well. Like I said, the hours was long. Every day's a busy day. You're tired all the time, so you end up spending more time in prison as a prison officer. Like, you end up knowing the prisoners more than you know your own family. You know, like, by the time I've gone home, I've spent maybe 4 or 5 hours with my missus, my ex at the time, and you know, it's like I spent 4 or 5 hours with her every day, compared to the prison where sometimes I'm spending at least 8 hours, sometimes 13 hours, sometimes I'm spending 2 hours with a missus, because then I'm sleeping and going back to prison again. This is what I'm saying about you need to be paid what's to be paid. It's a dangerous job, and it wouldn't be so hard, because money could, when you did have days off for stuff, you could then be able to, you know, actually do some nice things and have quality time together. But you're too tired, the hours are long, you're there, you feel like you're there all the time. It's not good for your personal life.
In long sentences. Officer Withers swapped a career in finance for maximum security.
Driving to work every day, not knowing if you actually are going to go home. That's one of the things that's when you start feeling like a prisoner.
Do you think you made the right decision?
I think I definitely did, and I think it is a huge turnaround, but also a lot of the skills are very transferable, so you have to deal with sometimes situations which are, you have limited resources under intense time pressures, but that's all part of the job, is like learning how to do that effectively and becoming good at that.
So I've been on air now for just under 2 years.
This prisoner picks his words carefully.
It must be quite daunting for the staff as well, because obviously this prison does have a reputation. You've got the old staff training the new staff. Obviously they're sort of rabbits in the headlights, so to say, but I think they've done really well.
But keeping staff in the prison service is a major problem. The governor here refutes there's any crisis.
What about overcrowding? I mean, we heard recently the government saying our prisons are nearly full and they need to use police cells to help with that overflow. I mean, how much of a problem is overcrowding?
So I'm not seeing that impact at Belmarsh as yet. However, I am a prison that focuses on the courts, because I have people on remand waiting to go to court. And so we know that some people's cases are not listed until 2023, 2024. So trying to get people moved through the system is really difficult.
A lot of people are saying our prisons are in crisis. Are they?
I'll only talk about Belmarsh Prison, and what I see is a prison that wants to make a difference and has made a difference.
You're right.
The latest inspection found improvements, but also warned prisoners still spent very long periods of time locked behind their doors.
The reality is there are too many prisoners and too few staff. There's been a mass exodus of experience. 1 in 7 officers left the service last year, and half of them had less than 3 years in the role. Staffing shortages have serious consequences in places like this.
We are starting to treat people like animals again.
For 11 years, Neil worked in strange ways before an attack by a prisoner left him injured and with PTSD.
A prison's getting more dangerous.
Very much so. I think now there's no experience or very little. The people who've been in a job a long time are probably on the edge, you know, extremely stressed, become very dangerous, very hostile place again, like it used to be. I think getting the right type of people for the job, I think we've got to a point where it's just bums on seats.
It did feel like that. Again, another example of, like, you had to be in that prison, so it wasn't a youth offender, there was no youth offenders wing. You had to be at least 21 in that prison and have at least 4 years left on your sentence to be moved to that prison that I worked in Loudon. But you had guards or officers coming through, there was like 18, 19, fresh off uni, fresh out of college, whatever, and then coming to be a prison officer. That's not going to run. Like, some of these old timers, they're not going to be listening to some little, you know, like, not to discredit them, some of them got on really well because they're, again, like me, you can build that rapport depending on who you are and stuff, but like some of them, they are scared, and yeah, it is just bums on seats, shirt fillers, etc.
It's often seen as a low-status job, but back at Belmarsh, the unlocked recruits all want to make a difference.
I don't know what I expected. The only thing I knew about prison was what I saw on telly.
Mum of two, Officer Joelle, is passionate about rehabilitating even the most hardened criminals.
I think people need a second chance. Sometimes circumstances may have led you to do something that you may not necessarily be proud of, and it may lead you down the line of imprisonment. But does that mean that we should not give that person a second chance if they are ready to kind of turn their life around, if that makes sense? Hence the reason why I wanted to be in the prison system.
To address overcrowding, the government says it's creating 20,000 more prison places, but convincing people to work here is still a major challenge. Sarah Corker, ITV News, inside Belmarsh Prison.
Like, as she just said, some of the people in there, like, everybody thinks that they're all rapists or all murderers. That's not the case. For, like, I used to say to some of the guys in there, because we used to have banter, like, I used to take the piss out of them and they used to try to take the piss out of me, and that's what made your day go by. You become acquaintances. They're not your friends, they can never be your friends, but they become acquaintances with you, don't they? Like, so you have that bit of banter and stuff. And some of them I used to say to them, like, oh, we'd be like, if I met you on the outside, we'd probably be friends. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Because some of them I got on with really well. I used to play pool with them. Just some of them used to make me food. Like, it was cool. I'll have a coffee with one in the morning. Once I've unlocked everyone, he'd be like, oh, do you want a coffee? Yeah. So it was cool. But like I said, some of them are in there for like, drug crimes, but it's you know, smuggling and stuff. It's they're doing it because they need the money and stuff like that. Or like somebody who is in there for murder. Maybe like there was one guy in there, he's had a fight. I've been in a fight. Most people have had a fight, whether they've been drunk, whether they're defending themselves. People have hit me, I've hit other people. Like, people have been involved in shit, yeah? But one punch can kill a man. Like, so you hit him, he falls, bangs his head, he's dead. You're done. But, you know, it doesn't, in my eyes there, like, it doesn't make you a murderer. It doesn't, you are. But, like, you're not, do you know what I'm trying to say? There's a difference. It was an accidental. It's more manslaughter than murder. But, yeah. So, like I said, some of the guys in there, they're in there. They deserve to be in there for what they've done. Don't get me wrong. But they're just normal guys. They're not all like that, though. A lot of them do deserve to be in there, and a lot of them should be in there. In fact, there's a lot of them that shouldn't be in there as well because they are mentally ill, but it's crazy trying to get all of that stuff through as well. Like, people are in there that they just shouldn't be in there. Anyway, that might be another video. We could do another video on mental health in prison. We'll see what that's about. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, leave any suggestions if you want me to react to anything, American stuff, UK stuff, any of that. And yeah, I will see you in the next one.